Climate change and its effects on Africa and its development is the focus of a UN climate conference in Morocco.
Finally, some relief for thousands of internally displaced persons and many nursing mothers who have suffered at the hands of Boko Haram in Nigeria's northeast.
And world-class fashions from Malawi now on sales in stores, and their designer looks to take her brand to the world as well. Africa 54 starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Chamberlain Oso at Channels Television in Lagos. Welcome to the program, and we will take you around the continent to bring you stories of interest to all Africans.
And thanks, Chamberlain. I'm Esther Gitu-Ewart with the Voice of America here for Vincent Makori, coming to you from our global headquarters at Studio 51 in Washington.
In Nigeria's northeast region, relief has come for some 5,000 internally displaced persons, mostly nursing mothers, whose lives have been turned upside down by Boko Haram. An interfaith organization in Adamawa State is helping them as they find new homes outside the official government camps. And Channels Television's correspondent Freedom Haslam compiled the report.
One after the other, the women arrive with their children from communities in Koza and Madagali to receive food items to help ease their living conditions. For the internally displaced persons in official camps, food aid from various sources is managed by the national emergency agencies. But for these ones who chose to stay on their own in their host communities, feeding has been difficult. It's no surprise they turned en masse to benefit from this gesture.
Words are not enough to say thank you for this food. My baby is less than 1 week old, and we have been managing life without the father.
We are still going through hard times, though this year we were able to cultivate our farms. We have to harvest our beans before it's ready for harvest. But we thank God for the food distribution. May God bless them for us.
The humanitarian crisis occasioned by Boko Haram insurgency has drawn global attention to the northeast, with the warning by the UN that about 75,000 children may die of malnutrition if there is no urgent intervention. The organization's choice of nursing mothers as beneficiaries of this food aid aims to avert this.
The humanitarian crisis hasn't ended. If anything, it's worse up north to us. But there are still thousands of internally displaced people in Yola. The group today that we just are feeding are from Gwoza and Madagali.
With relative peace restored to the region, the task of the government is to ensure that the current food shortage and other humanitarian issues don't degenerate beyond the prevailing situation.
Well, President Buhari has warned that Nigeria is at risk of famine perhaps as early as next year, owing to the huge global demand for the country's surplus grains. He's given directives for the purchase of grains for storage and the reduction of exports, and this is in order to prevent a crisis. Well, joining me now for discussion on this matter is Mr. Zainal Hassan, an agronomist. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. Welcome to the program. Now, despite being Africa's largest producer of grains, the government says Nigeria is at risk of famine as early as next year, and that is a lot of pressure. But do you think that this is the key reason behind this threat?
Chamberlain, if I can get you right, Nigeria is facing famine next year as announced by the Special Assistant to the President on Media. To just give a little background of what led to this, in 2015 when the government came in, they came in at the peak of the planting season. At that time, there was nothing much to be done, and so there was no input to the agricultural sector, especially to farmers who are the major producers of these grains. Then coming into 2016, there wasn't also any tangible effort to be able to assist in production of these grains in 2016. Now, the only thing that the government was able to do was the Anchor Borrowers Program, which was basically focused on rice in some selected states. Now, having 2 consecutive years of lack of input into the agricultural sectors will definitely lead into a food shortage crisis, which is famine, as being anticipated.
Well, Mr. Zanau, how do you think a reduction in our exportation of these grains will help the situation at the moment?
The major challenge we are facing is not related with export of these commodities. I give an example. Maize is the main food staple that we consume in this country. Maize is not just consumed by humans, it's also the major source of feed for animals. And so whether export is being banned for maize is immaterial. What we need to look at is that the internal demand for these commodities is high, and the supply in the market is not meeting the demand. And certainly it's going to continue to increase, because we know for almost more than 2 years, we have 2 regions, 2 states that have not been engaged in food production, which means that food from other parts of this country must be pushed to those areas to also be able to feed the population there.
What else do you think we should be considering?
A quick intervention to ensure that there is a massive irrigation to be able to make sure that even if we are going to face this food crisis, it's not going to push much further into next year, is to engage in massive irrigation cultivation, because if we do not do that, moving into 2017, first quarter, second quarter, you will imagine that if maize sells for 10,000 now, imagine what it will sell by March into June next year. So the best thing for government to do is to massively deploy all its resources, all its policies, and then ensure that states that have the capacity to go into massive production of these grains begin the process of engaging farmers and ensuring that these farmers have adequate inputs, whether it is seed, whether it is fertilizer, whether it is agrochemicals, are readily available for massive grain production.
Mr. Zanau Hassan, thank you for joining us today on Africa 54.
Now, is there trouble brewing at The Hague? The International Criminal Court has been rocked by a series of withdrawals by African countries that were original signatories to the court. Burundi, South Africa and Gambia signaled their intention to quit the ICC this year, saying the court unfairly targets African leaders. And last week, Russia also pulled out of the ICC treaty, and the Philippines might follow. Analysts say the latest withdrawals raise the prospect the ICC will no longer be seen as an institution of global justice. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, one of the world's last hunter-gatherer tribes uses a thoroughly modern method to try preserve their land and way of life. That story after the break.
I am Sheikha Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
The World Health Organization figures show that Sierra Leone has lost over 4,000 people to Ebola. As the country recovers from the epidemic, survivors continue to suffer the burden of social stigma and poverty. VOA's Jackson Bunganyi visited with one of the survivors and has our report.
Haja Kagbo sits with her new baby on the veranda of the 2-bedroom house she shares with her sister. She's an Ebola survivor. She was forced to move from her village of Kenema because her neighbors were threatening her with physical violence. They didn't want an Ebola survivor in their neighborhood. Haja moved in with her sister in Waterloo, a town 30 minutes outside of Freetown.
The life not easy because Waterloo, most of the people are not saying a survivor. Because who's I be to my parents then, I did people have no saying a survivor. But from the time I did to my sister, the life not easy for me.
Haja and her 2 kids contracted Ebola from her husband. Her husband and 2 kids died. She was the only survivor. Statistics show that over 75% of those who died from Ebola were women. That's because women were on the front line of the epidemic, working as caregivers to the sick.
My husband get the contract from Ebola. So just 2 weeks, my husband passed away. From them, I said, have the same system, the same sick. So after 1 week, me and my 2 children start getting sick. So after that, they take me and my children from 2 in the hospital. Just 2 days, my 2 children pass away. So from there, myself, the condition is very rough. So after then, they carry me from in the hospital, Red Cross, Kenema. So I'll be there for just 2 weeks and some days. After that, they say I'll survive.
Haja's new baby is a few months old. The father of the child passed away 3 months into her pregnancy. But she's hopeful that the child will have a brighter future.
I mean a lot for me. Because maybe from time after God make he succeed, God may say nothing happen to him. Maybe after education he will do something for me.
Right. So your hope
about
a bright future lies in this little baby. Is it a boy or girl?
Girl.
What's her name? Ebo?
Yeah.
Okay. Haja says that the stigma towards Ebola survivors like herself is the reason she can't find work. She wants government to step in and fulfill some of the promises they have made to her and thousands of others.
Well, the life is not easy for me because I'm doing nothing.
You don't have a job?
No job.
How do you survive?
Only God and my sister.
Your sister looks after you?
Yeah.
She buys your food?
Yeah, because right now said
the baby?
Yeah, but right now the place we in now, she ain't have no money to pay, so
this house?
Yeah, this house, but the man say we're supposed to go. My sister now, she ain't get no way for get money.
Is there a government program to help you survive?
Nothing, no way. No way.
Nothing. Have you tried to go to the Ministry of Health or to talk to your local representative?
They used to call me, you go social welfare, they say they get something for you. When you go there, nothing. They can't give you nothing. One time we make meeting, they say social welfare and say they're supposed to give 400,000. From 6 then nothing, we can't know about the money even.
So you have not received any
nothing.
help at all?
Nothing.
The government of Sierra Leone says that it is working together with international partners like the UN to allocate funds for the social rehabilitation and payment to Ebola survivors. Haja says that would be a welcome relief, but she's worried that the promises might never be fulfilled. For Voice of America, I'm Jackson Vunganyi, Waterloo, Sierra Leone.
Climate change remains a huge challenge for the world, and Africa has been experiencing some severe effects. How to tackle climate change while still driving development was the focus at the UN Climate Conference in Morocco, as well as the Africa Renewable Energy Initiative. Channel Television's correspondent Ayola Kasim reports.
Africa is the region that least contributed to climate change, but it is the worst hit by its impact.
The Honorable Minister.
At the 2016 Climate Conference in Marrakesh, the leaders and the citizens of the continent have decided not to be followers, instead reformers and incubators of new ideas.
Heads of states and governments and ministerial has led since 2015 has led African efforts with the African Group of Negotiators to develop an African adaptation initiative to scale up global support for adaptation and addressing loss and damages in Africa, along with the African Renewable Energy Initiative, in order to reflect African leadership in addressing climate change.
The celebration started with the Africa Renewable Energy Initiative, which was inaugurated in Paris in 2015. The president of the African Development Bank asked the leaders to work towards balancing the energy mix that will bring about the industrialization that the continent desires.
Africa must power up itself to add value to what it produces, speed up industrialization, and move to the top of global value chains. This must start with unlocking the huge potentials of energy on the continent, including Africa's vast potentials in renewable energy as well as non-renewable energy. Africa simply needs energy, period.
President Muhammadu Buhari, represented by the Minister of Environment, said that despite all the challenges, Africa shall endeavor to deliver its pledges with continuous and adequate support from developed countries.
In spite of the global downturn and our own budgetary constraints domestically, we are committing a reasonable part of our 2017 capital budget to this effort. The 2017 budget will be a green budget that will reflect Nigeria's efforts to realize our NDC. In addition, we are set to launch our first ever sovereign green bond in the first quarter of 2017. This is intended to fund a series of projects targeted at reducing emissions for a greener economy and embedded in our NDC.
Later, leaders across Africa expressed a strong determination to protect the continent's future. They have decided to speak with one voice and join forces to fight climate change and increase the continent's resilience. One after the other, the leaders also confirmed their ambitions to embark on a path to sustainable emergence by building Africa's own inclusive and sustainable development model. Ayola Kasim reporting for Channels Television News.
Now, the Hadzabe people have lived in northern Tanzania for thousands of years. They are some of the world's last hunter-gatherers, and they are fighting for survival. Now they have turned to the global carbon trading market to help them preserve their forests. Reporter Willie Lowry has that report.
The Hadzabe still use the same kind of wooden bows and arrows their ancestors used. They live off the animals they hunt and what they forage from the forest.
Fruits like midabi, berries and toothbrush trees. That is a traditional of Hadzabe. Meat, roots and baobabs.
But it's becoming harder.
The environment is destroyed. It's not the same as we used to live before in those days. When we used to live with our parents, there used to be a lot of animals around. My old man used to roam for just a little while in the forest and come back with a big antelope.
Rival tribes have moved into the area, transforming the forests of the Yaita Valley into agricultural and grazing land. But now a local social enterprise is trying to help. Carbon Tanzania sells what are known as carbon offsets to local and international companies looking to reduce their carbon footprint. Scientists say an excess of greenhouse gases, like carbon dioxide, in the atmosphere due to the burning of fossil fuels is contributing to global warming. Trees naturally absorb carbon dioxide, thus mitigating the impact. The sale of carbon offsets pays Hadzabe forest rangers. Other proceeds are funneled back into the community.
What we're saying to companies and individuals is take the step to reduce your impact on the natural world by supporting the conservation of this natural habitat, which also supports the lifestyle, in this case, of a very special indigenous cultural group.
To date, the community has received roughly $150,000, which they spend on healthcare, education, and other community projects.
Carbon Tanzania told us to conserve and protect the forests, so no one cut down trees. There are benefits from carbon. We get T-shirts and money, which we use to buy some basic necessities.
Filippo hopes the Hadzabe will be able to continue their traditions for generations to come. Willie Lowry for VOA News in the Yaita Valley, Tanzania.
We'll take a breather now, but before we'll do a reminder to visit our website. It's channelstv.com for all the latest information, day or night. You can also find us on youtube.com/channelsweb. Well, still to come, with rising unemployment, some Nigerian state governments are developing work programs and places such as garment factory in Cross River State. That story when we return.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories with analysis from our dedicated reporters. It's really a conversation the same way that you would bring a friend to your home and ask them what's going on. And our correspondents will do that and answer those questions through their own eyes.
That appears a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
With rising unemployment, some state governments are developing new work projects. One of such is a garment factory in Cross River State in the south-south region of the country, which is now employing about 3,000 people, most of them widows. Channels Television's Imani Ode, who spent time with some of them, compiled this report. Take a look.
Sitting on 3 hectares of land is the Cross River State Garment and Textile Factory, which aims to provide jobs for as many as 3,000 youths and women in the state. The first batch of employees are already undergoing training with modern facilities, and their first task is sewing uniforms and other garments for the entire staff.
The first day of the training is going to be 1 month. You can see the uniforms they are wearing here. They are made by themselves here. And even you can see they are doing the cutting there. You can see some are doing the heat transfer and everything from fixing the button. So we are doing everything holistically here.
About 60% of the workforce is made up of women, mostly widows, who have relied on old sewing methods for their sustenance but are now being exposed to new sewing skills.
As a designer, there are some machines here that I don't have, and this is the first time I'm seeing it. So what he has done is great, because so far I thought maybe I was doing so well, but coming here to see some machines that I don't have, it's an improvement for me. I've really improved myself.
I learned how to master this machine because I've not seen this type of machine before. Now I've mastered the machine, and the button holes that we use in doing buttons, like this one, we use machine to put it. We don't use handle again in this company.
This initiative to empower so many women, especially widows, gets the commendation of some members of the Nigeria Association of Women Journalists.
These are the vulnerable in the society. Sometimes when a man dies and leaves a wife, the children suffer. We know these things, so I think it's commendable. It is highly commendable that this group of people have been singled out to be favored in this in the employment in this garment factory.
The facility, which also aims to contribute to the revival of Nigeria's textile industry, has also received a nod from the Minister of Labour.
This factory is an employment center, so to say, because at each shift, 1,000 persons are here working. They do 3 shifts in a given day, and 3,000 persons taken out of the halls of unemployed, the army of unemployed, is a good number.
For these newly employed, this is an opportunity to acquire skills to position them in the growing fashion industry and provide alternatives to the demand for imported garments.
Still on fashion now to Malawi, where one of that country's fashion designers, Lile Alfonso, has shown her creations on catwalks in London, Paris and Amsterdam. Lamek Messina has her story.
Lile Alfonso gets right to work. Her passion for fashion started at the age of 6.
Every time I look at any cloth,
that is there for me, quickly I would want to change into what I like.
She started her own tailoring business, and in 2010 she was named the best designer at a local fashion show here in the capital, Lilongwe.
So that motivated me more to say everything is possible.
And her business has grown.
We've expanded to Zimbabwe, South Africa. UK, America is individually, but South Africa then we've gone into shops now.
She employs 30 people in her design studio, and her company sources some of the fabric it uses from disabled weavers in Malawi. Alfonso also offers free lessons to aspiring designers in Lilongwe.
Now I'm having this experience how to draw models, really like professional way, how models are supposed to be drawn.
But success isn't without its challenges. Alfonso says her main problem now is dealing with people copying her designs. But she's pushing ahead with her goal of becoming a competitive global brand in the next 5 years. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Lilongwe.
And that's our show for today. I'm Esther Githu Ewart. Chamberlain has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. And don't forget to check out our website, it's channelstv.com, for all our local news and program information anytime, any day. I'm Chamberlain, so thank you for watching. So long, everybody.